feel bad for them coons in the White House who are in there tap dancing for massa.
Up next, it's time for a quick roundup of some headlines today, and we got some real doozies on deck. Up first, this radical left-leaning pastor just went on an incredibly racist rant towards Black Trump supporters. Take a listen and buckle up, because this one's a real doozy.
I feel bad for them coons in the White House who are in there tap dancing for massa, wearing bow ties, shinning and grinding, laughing like nothing is funny. But I ain't afraid of the spooks that sat at the door. These runaway slaves hiding in the White House gonna throw my picture up thinking that I'm gonna be afraid.
Wow. Just wow. So the context here is that Trump just had a ton of Black supporters at the White House for his Black History Month celebration. Remember when they claimed he canceled Black History Month? Yeah, funny. That didn't actually happen. Instead, he had a whole celebration about it. And I think some of them trolled this guy, this controversial pastor. His name is Jamal Bryant. Well, some of the Trump supporters trolled him and brought his picture to the White House and posted a photo, I guess. And this is how he responds. He calls them slurs and slaves who are tap dancing for massa. Wow. That is very hateful and very racist towards people, a part of your community who just disagree with you politically. And I wanted to know, like, was this clip taken out of context? So I went and found the full broadcast of his sermon, and it wasn't. It really was this extreme and hateful and delusional. He even went off about how, you know, Trump can't do anything to us because we've been through segregation before. And he made it sound like the Trump administration is coming after the Black community and going to put them through historic horrors like segregation and Jim Crow and all that. And it's like, what are you talking about? Seriously, can they name one thing Trump has done to harm Black people? He's ended a lot of toxic DEI stuff, but there's still equality. There's still equality of opportunity. There's still anti-discrimination protections. And I just find it so nasty, the way that minorities who aren't liberal are often treated by their own communities. I mean, you see this with gay people, but I actually think that Black Republicans might have it the worst, which is bizarre because the GOP today isn't anti-Black. Like, there are many Black members, many Black voters, no policies that are geared towards harming Black people. Like, that's not a thing. Yet Black voters who vote for Republicans are somehow viewed as like traitors or evil. I just honestly don't get it. And I also think no matter how strongly, even if you thought they were being harmful and they were betraying the community, it's still not okay to be racist to them. Like, the fact that I have to explain that to prominent Black leaders is kind of wild. And guys, this is not a nobody. This is a very prominent Black pastor who Kamala Harris actually praised during her presidential campaign. What a wild and wild time we live in. Up next, this liberal actress just doubled down on obnoxious woke nonsense. Here is Jane Fonda speaking at an award ceremony.
Make no mistake, empathy is not weak or woke. And by the way, woke just means you give a damn about other people. We need to call upon our empathy and not judge, but listen from our hearts and welcome them into our tent, because we are going to need a big tent to resist successfully what's coming at us.
You hear that, guys? Woke isn't a bad thing. It just means you're empathetic and caring. How do they say this crap with a straight face, y'all? I mean, you think back of the years of woke insanity that we lived through, where they were canceling people and ruining their lives over old tweets they dug up out of context, or going back and finding things people posted as teenagers to destroy their careers. That's empathy now? Y'all are delusional. And actually, you can care about other people while not buying all the woke nonsense. Not believing that human beings can be non-binary doesn't mean you don't care about people. Not believing that microaggressions are a serious thing, or that we should be doing all this over-the-top DEI stuff, doesn't mean you don't care about people. Again, you could actually care about people and believe strongly against those things because you want equality for all. It's just wild to see her talk about like opening up to people and becoming a big tent, when that's the opposite of what everything woke has been. It's been constantly about excluding people, canceling people, purity testing everyone, destroying those who disagree with you. It's like, you must either be completely out of touch or just intentionally misrepresenting what words mean. But babe, Jane, the dictionary is not a choose-your-own-adventure book, and no matter how many times you gaslight us, we're still not going to believe that woke just means being empathetic towards people. Up next, apparently America is getting gayer.
America is queer. No, really, it's queerer than ever before. According to a Gallup poll released today, 9.3% of Americans identify as LGBTQ. That's the highest percentage to ever answer that question in history. And the numbers are higher among young Americans. For millennials, it's 14.2%. And for Generation Z, a whopping 23.1% identify as LGBTQ. It's important to note that these numbers contradict the idea that being trans is a social contagion. Why? Because the largest increases actually came from people who said they're gay, or people who say that they're bisexual. And of course, the largest changes came from younger generations. That's millennials and Generation Z. So what's actually going on here? Well, what we're actually seeing is an increase in social acceptance, especially among young respondents.
So I don't think they're ready for the truth about what these numbers mean. Some of the increase is definitely because of increased tolerance. I think that's true. The more that people are comfortable being gay and don't feel like they're going to be hated on or discriminated against, the more they'll come out of the closet and be open about who they really are. And that's totally fine. But some of this is also absolutely, unquestionably a fad and a product of them stretching the LGBTQ plus identity to include more and more nonsense and hysterical things. For example, the biggest increase in this polling was actually among bisexual people. And to be clear, there are some bisexual people. But as any gay man can tell you, as anybody who's been around young liberal white women who made out with their friend once at college, some of it is trendy. Some of it is people wanting to hop in on the alphabet identity and call themselves bisexual or whatever so they can be part of something, because we have this culture that bizarrely treats victimhood as a form of social currency. And so a fair amount of those are probably people who are just straight, but they want to be spicy straight. They want to be straight, but part of it. And so they're technically bisexual, but then it's a woman and they just date men. It's like, we've all seen it. We all know that's at least a piece of what's going on here. And sorry, but what this activist says is not correct. There has been a huge increase in the number of people identifying as transgender in recent years. And especially when you think about things like non-binary that have no scientific basis or medical basis whatsoever, definitely part of that is a social phenomenon where it spreads just like many other trends and cultural things and even mental health conditions can spread, especially among teenagers. It's a well-documented phenomenon, and these numbers don't actually disprove it. Just because there's bigger increases among bisexual people and gay people, there's still a massive increase observed in the percent saying they're transgender or non-binary. At the end of the day, I think it's important to be open-minded, but not too open-minded that your brain falls out. Up next, some very strange sex stuff just got exposed from inside the federal government. The conservative activist Chris Rufo just obtained logs from the NSA, the National Security Agency's secret transgender sex chat room, in which NSA, CIA, and DIA employees discuss genital castration, artificial vaginas, piss fetishes, sex polycules, and gangbangs, all on government time. He explains the NSA maintains a chat system for the intelligence community called Intelink. The servers are supposed to be used for government work, but gender activists have hijacked at least two channels, LGBTQA and IC Pride TWG, to discuss fetishes, kink, and sex, all legitimized as DEI. In these chats, they talked about transgender surgeries, laser hair removal on buttholes, and one NSA official claimed to use it/its pronouns, with others defending the usage of it/itself pronouns, claiming that not using them amounts to trans erasure. Other chat rooms discussed ethical non-monogamy and polyamory, and so much more. And this stuff is real. An NSA spokesman has confirmed the authenticity of the secret sex chats and claims that the agency is taking administrative action against employees who abuse this system. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is actually bad and not good. And that if you work for the government, you shouldn't be talking about weird sex stuff at work. Like, honestly, I don't care. Knock yourself out. But it doesn't belong in government chat rooms, especially as part of our intelligence community that's supposed to be keeping us safe. And I'll also go out on a limb and say that if you are so mentally unwell that you want to be dehumanized and described as it/its, you might not be in the right place mentally to be trusted with important national security work. Just a crazy thought. And we need to, as a society, I think, just bring back like a little bit of shame. We definitely used to have too much, but now I don't think we have quite enough. Up next, this radical trans activist group was apparently being funded by taxpayers. The Daily Mail reports that Donald Trump's foreign aid clampdown could force controversial LGBTQ+ charity Stonewall in the UK to cut half of its staff. So why was a British activist organization with very radical ideas, like pushing for transitioning minors and pushing gender ideology, getting funded by US taxpayers in the first place? It's not even in America or an American organization, and it's something most Americans wouldn't even agree with. Here's more. American funding to Stonewall came through the Global Equality Fund, which focuses on, quote, advancing LGBTI rights around the world and is administered by the US State Department. Over the past 3 years, the US has provided Stonewall with more than £500,000 of aid. Why? Why were they ever getting any money from US taxpayers, let alone that much? This is a group that's worked to erase biological sex and erase women's rights to sex-segregated spaces and pushed very radical ideas about trans kids. They have every right to exist and speak their piece, but we should never have been funding them as taxpayers. And look, some of it's been chaotic, the way they've gone about it, and I'm sure there are a lot of important programs that do need to be funded, but this kind of thing shows you why Trump and Elon are going after a lot of this international aid and a lot of the NGO funding, because a lot of it has been funneled to either wasteful or radical causes that Americans would not want to be funding if they knew about it. And this one certainly falls into that category. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments which one of these was the craziest to you of these quick news items. Do let me know, and do hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk again real soon.